Since the pandemic began, 4 Valley city managers have announced retirement. The longest serving is Palm Springs' David Reddy, who after 2 decades of service will be leaving his position at the end of the month.
I spoke with Reddy, who reflected on his accomplishments and challenges. When you walk around downtown, David, and you see all of the change, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, compared to what it was, just the metamorphosis that has taken place.
David Reddy considers the revitalization of downtown Palm accomplishments in his 2 decades as city manager. He says the new hotels and businesses, along with the expanded convention center, have transformed downtown into a tourism hub that will be an economic driver for years to come.
This is signifies sort of the rebirth of Palm Springs as a destination that it always should be and could be and will be.
It must make you feel very proud to know that you were a big part of this.
Well, it was exciting. It was a whole team effort.
Reddy also played a crucial role in developing air service at the city-owned Palm Springs International Airport. He says when he began as city manager, the airport desperately needed more flights to compete in the tourism economy.
So you had this great, beautiful airport, but very little air service. So if you may not remember that we used to have to pay American Airlines $200,000 to have one flight to Dallas in the summertime. Now that's completely changed.
Reddy says the economic growth has allowed Palm Springs to provide higher quality services, including its own police department and no-kill animal shelter. During his 20 years as city manager, sales tax revenues have increased 5 times. Transient occupancy taxes have tripled and property taxes have doubled. In addition to the way Palm Springs has grown, Reddy says he's proud the city has developed 50 neighborhood organizations, since there were only a few when he arrived.
The success comes in bringing together and aligning the different stakeholders and interests, and then figuring out how to create public value that make quality of life better.
Reddy took the job in Palm Springs in 2000 after working in municipal government in Flint, Michigan, and his hometown of Canton, Ohio. He served under 5 mayoral administrations with hundreds of staff members while overseeing a nearly $300 million budget. But he also witnessed some of the city's toughest times, including when then-Mayor Steve Pugnier and developers were indicted in a pay-to-play scandal. That must have been interesting to deal with.
Well, the last thing that any city manager ever wants is when you have, the FBI coming into City Hall. So obviously that was a very unfortunate thing to occur, and that obviously was hugely important.
But Reddy says nothing could have prepared him for the challenge of the coronavirus and the city's projected shortfall of $76 million. To address the budget gap, the council used millions in reserves and laid off more than 24 staff. But Reddy says higher than expected revenues have recently helped the city to bring down the deficit and rehire more than a dozen positions that had been eliminated.
So I think now we've got our arms around how to deal with this, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I'd like to think that through the worst parts of the COVID, I was able to help and assist out.
The 60-year-old says the decision to retire was not easy, especially during the pandemic, but now he's ready for a new chapter. What's next for you? Are you going to stay in Palm Springs?
It's hard to ever leave Palm Springs, and so I certainly plan to be here. But again, it's just what's the next phase, and I'm very interested in the academic part of public administration, and government's always been close to my heart. So in some form or fashion, I will always be involved.
And it's worth mentioning, according to Palm Springs, Reddy is the only city manager in the nation with a law degree and a doctorate degree. He says he plans to continue to lead the city and help with the transition until the end of the month. Meanwhile, the search continues for his replacement.